Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me tonight we've got Joe and Ron, and Jason will be joining us later. He is out for dinner with his lovely wife, Karen, to celebrate Karen's first day at her new job. So he will be on later to talk about the Phillies and everything else. But until then, Ron is on because we also had our fantasy baseball finals. And let me say it now and get it out of the way initially. Great job, Ron. Congratulations on thoroughly whooping my ass last week, man.
Thank you.
That was, boy, my team picked the worst time of the year to just go ice cold as they've ever been.
You and Jason both.
Yeah, Jason last week, me this week. Well, hey, that's sports, man, and fantasy likes to mock how regular sports can show that, any given week, anything can happen. So that absolutely came true in the playoffs this year. All right. So, hey, Joe, what are you drinking tonight up there?
Well, so I've got two. I've got, in recognition of what the Milwaukee Brewers have been doing the last couple of weeks, keeping this a little closer for the Cubs, I've got a Miller High Life. Thank you, Milwaukee. And I also have anything but Corona, ABC from Akron Brewing again, out there in the Akron, Medina, Ohio area. So if you're out that way, check them out. It's great stuff. Two great locations.
Awesome. And Ron, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm just drinking a Pepsi.
Hey, man, sometimes you need the caffeine kick. I get it. And for me, I am back on the Hardball Cider Kick, the baseball-themed cidery. And tonight we are drinking the Spiced Curveball. Quite tasty.
Ooh,
I definitely recommend
good.
that one. Oh, man, I still want to get that blueberry one I had a couple weeks ago. That was so good. All right, so let's roll into it tonight. Joe, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one since Mr. Wainwright spent most of his career absolutely tormenting the Cubs.
Sure. Speaking of spiced curveballs here, Adam Wainwright got his 200th win literally just minutes after we got off the air last week. So in what has been a really difficult season for Cardinal fans, the Cardinal organization, Wainwright, who we thought would get this earlier in the year, had been stuck at 198 for about 3 months and then got 199 and 200 in the last week or so. So he picked that, the 2 wins up in the 7 days. His 200th win came, vintage. He went 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs. Eked out a 1-0 win over Milwaukee last Monday, shortly after we went off the air. His last 2 wins came against first place teams after going 0-10 in 11 starts with a 10.72 ERA. So it's been a difficult season for him, but he was able to get over the hill on this. 38th pitcher in National League history to reach 200 and the 24th major leaguer since 2000 to reach the milestone. Third pitcher in the Cardinals organization to do so, joining Bob Gibson and Jesse Haynes. Fifth active pitcher to reach this milestone, including Verlander, Greinke, Scherzer, and Kershaw. Good company there, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
The next closest pitchers are Johnny Cueto and Garrett Cole at the moment. Cueto's got to be towards the end of his rope, I would imagine. Maybe Cole has a shot at it, but he would have to be really good for 5-6 years.
Yeah, Cole's at 143 right now. Let me see here. I forget how old he is. Yeah,
He's
been
like
pitching
31.
33.
33.
Yeah, he's got a shot. He's got a shot. The thing he's got to do, though, is he's got to do what Kershaw did and realize that once the velo starts to drop, you need to change who you are as a pitcher and adapt to what you can still do.
And the nice thing with Cole is that if he continues to pitch with the Yankees until he's done, with the lineups they can produce, I think he's got a real good shot at it.
Yeah, they've got the pockets to at least field a competitive lineup on paper, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the last thing on this is that he is the oldest Cardinal pitcher with an outing of 7 or more innings, surpassing Jim Katt, who was 41 when he threw a 10-inning shutout in 1980.
That's wild, man. 41 years old in a 10-inning shutout, and you're not a knuckleball pitcher. Boy, it was a different game back then, wasn't it?
Anybody going past 7 innings nowadays is unheard of.
Yeah, it's wild how true that is. I just looked up Cueto's 37. He's not catching 200. No chance. And I mean, honestly, guys, realistically, 300 used to be the benchmark. Pitchers don't pitch long enough anymore, and bullpens blow so many leads for their starters that don't go deep into games anymore. We're probably going to have to lower that Hall of Fame threshold to 250, 200 realistically, probably 200 wins as being minimum benchmark for a starter anymore, just because of that. You're not going to 300 may be, based on how the game is now, 300 may not be achievable anymore. As wild as that is.
Yeah, I mean, the last one to do 300 was Glavine, I think.
Randy Johnson did it after Glavine.
Oh, Johnson, okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that was a while back, so.
Yeah, and it's just wild to think about because it used to be, you felt like at least you'd have 2-3 pitchers in a decade that would get to that point, but you just don't see it anymore. So, that's got to adapt to change. All right, so let's look at the current playoff race update. Once again, we have some wild changes from last week to this week. Looking at some of the games last week, Phillies took 2 out of 3 over Atlanta, Orioles 2 out of 3 over the Astros, Twins 2 out of 3 over the Reds, Dodgers, and then the weekend series, the Dodgers 3 out of 4 over the Giants, basically sinking their hopes. I know they're not mathematically eliminated, but the Giants are toast. Brewers 2 out of 3 over the Marlins. Again, they're not out yet, but it's not looking great, although they do hold tiebreaker of the Cubs. Blue Jays 2 out of 3 over the Rays. I was a little surprised by that one. I thought the Rays were going to take care of business. But here's the big one of the weekend, guys. The Rangers swept the Mariners in a 3-gamer, propelling them into first place. And the Astros just had one of the worst weeks of any team all year. They dropped 2 out of 3 of the Orioles and then got swept at home by the 102-loss Kansas City Royals.
Yes.
Clearly, the trash cans were not being beaten at the correct intervals for this series.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
They lost 5 out of 6 in the homestand. Entered the week last week. They had a 1.5 lead in the AL West, and now they're 2.5 games behind the Rangers. I mean, it's wild, the change of fortunes of those two teams. All right, so looking at the playoff picture, if the playoffs ended today, if the season ended today, in the NL, number 1, Braves, number 2, Dodgers, number 3, Brewers, number 4 is Phillies, number 5 is Diamondbacks, number 6 is Cubs. They are back in the 6th spot again. Looking at the schedule ahead, it would be Phillies, Diamondbacks. The winner of that series would advance to face Atlanta. Brewers, Cubs winner would advance to face the Dodgers. In the American League, it's Orioles, Rangers, Twins for your top 3 seeds. And then your wild cards are Rays, Blue Jays, and Astros. Rays Blue Jays winner would advance to face the O's, and the Twins Astros winner would advance to face the Rangers. I forgot to change that last one on the sheet. Silly me. All right, looking at the tiebreakers. Orioles season series, the Rays is clinched, so they have that tiebreaker. Marlins have the tiebreaker of the Cubs. Mariners have the tiebreaker of the Astros. But the Rangers have the tiebreaker of the Mariners as well as the Blue Jays. The Diamondbacks have the tiebreaker of the Cubs. All right. So teams that are still in the hunt for these wild card spots, the Marlins are only a game behind the Cubs, and they do hold the tiebreaker. The Reds are 2.5 out. They're not out of it yet, but I feel like the Reds are, and I'll touch on this more later when we talk about the Pittsburgh game. I think the Reds are toast.
I think they're getting tired.
Yeah, I think they're done. In the American League, the Mariners are only a half game behind the Astros in that last wild card spot. But then also, remember, the AL West is still open. The Astros are 2.5 behind the Rangers, and the Mariners are 3 behind the Rangers. So the AL NL wild cards are going to go to the end. The AL West is going to go to the very end. So the clinch teams, Atlanta has the NL East in the first round bye. The Dodgers have the West in the first round bye. The Orioles and Rays both have playoff berth clinched, and the AL East winner has clinched the number 1 AL seed, whichever team pulls it out. The Twins have clinched the Central. Looking at the magic numbers, Atlanta's magic number of 3 to clinch the number 1 overall seed in the NL. I forgot to look at what it would be for MLB. I think it would be like probably 4 or 5 to stay ahead of the Orioles and take number 1 overall. Brewers magic number of 1 to clinch the Central. The Phillies magic number of 1 to clinch the top wild card spot. And Jason will be at the game tomorrow night, so maybe he'll get to see that happen in front of him. Be pretty cool for him. D-backs magical number to clinch the wild card 2 is 6. The Cubs to clinch wild card 3, the magic number is 6. Orioles magic number for the AL East and 1 seed is 3. The Rangers magic number for the AL West and the 2 seed is 5. Blue Jays magic number to clinch the number 2 wild card spot is 5. The Astros to clinch the number 3, the magic number is 7. Because again, that's gonna run all the way to the end. So that is the current playoff picture, and I fully expect there to be wholesale changes, possibly in the American League side, by the time we go on air next week to do our final season wrap before the and our preview for the NL and AL wildcard rounds. So that's where we're at right now, guys. Boy, look at that AL West, AL wildcard. What a turn of events from week to week to week this month has been. That's Again, I'll freely admit it. I hated that 6th wild card. I still hate the 6th wild card, but boy, it does make for an exciting race to the end. So, fine. Good job on that, baseball.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to still shake out this week, which is shocking.
Yeah. I thought more things would be clinched and done by this week, so it's
the way that the Mariners fought back to get to this spot, the way they've been playing all year. I mean, this is.
And then they fall flat in their face, and then they climb back in it again. It's the Mariners have been a roller coaster ride all season with the ups and downs. It's been pretty wild. All right, so let's move it on to the fantasy update. Let's rip this Band-Aid off and get it the hell over with. So, Ronnie, it was a more than double the score, 18-7 victory. Congratulations again, man. And Jason also more than doubled the score on Joe in a 19-7 victory in the 3rd place game. So, yeah, that was wild end of the season. My team went as ice cold as they ever have. Last week they hit 260. They committed 5 errors, which I don't think I ever had more than 3 errors in a week all year for this entire season. And the power and everything, it just wasn't there anywhere. My pitching was its usual, not great. Wonderful 4.89 ERA on the week. And Ron, your pitching was really good this week. I had wins, saves, innings, and strikeouts. That's all I had. We split quality starts. So, yeah, your team got hot the last 2 weeks at the right time, and boy, did they give a great show the last 2 weeks, man. So, congratulations.
Well, there for a while in the beginning of the week of our matchup, we were like neck and neck almost.
Yeah, you started to pull away fairly quickly.
Yeah, it was like Wednesday evening. It just started. I was like up into the teens, and I was like, okay, I might actually have a shot to win this.
Yeah, literally the only production offensively that I got this week was from Acuna and Olsen. Acuna had 8 runs, 3 singles, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. Like without Acuna and Olsen, Olsen had 7 runs, 7 singles, 4 RBIs, among other things. Without them, I was up the creek. I mean, Trey Turner, his fielding this week was god awful. He booted 2 errors by himself, and not pretty. So, yeah, great job, team, picking the worst week of the year to go as ice cold as possible.
Hey, I do have to admit, I did call this.
Yeah,
You did.
yeah, and you know what? I was actually kind of worried when I saw it was you and how hot your team had been. I was like, because my team did so well last week. I was like, oh God, I hope they didn't shoot everything they had last week. And it turns out they shot everything they had last week.
Dude, my bats got real hot just all around. I think that's the most home runs this week that I've had all season.
Well, Castellanos gave you a huge boost. He had 5 home runs, and Robert had 3 home runs for you. I mean, those two guys pretty much carried your entire team as far as the offensive output for the power numbers. That's just freaking wild that 2 guys had half your home runs.
That was the greatest pickup I could have done, was picking up Nick. Honestly, like,
I would have grabbed him, but I've had way too many outfielders all year. Trying to find time to play them all has been very difficult. So, yeah.
well, it was like Cedric Mullins. He kept going on the IL or being day to day, not playing, and I was like, I need a hot bat, somebody that's going to give me some power and runs. And I was like, well, Castellanos, he's hot right now. Let me pick him up, see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. A great pickup. All right. So, Joe, that means next year you will be drafting first after the expansion teams get their first, after they get their picks in. So you will be number 3, I believe, because I think we're only adding 2 teams next year. So start thinking now about who your top pick's going to be. And, hey, we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, look, a great season all around by all of us. I think it was fun, and a hat tip to Ronnie for pulling through, man.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
To go from 125 and a half games back to winning is just insane.
Went wire to wire in last place to come back and just win it all.
And our league level does remain at silver, guys. If you were curious in the Yahoo league level, how they, it basically what that looks at is it's a composite of the manager ratings. If I remember right, I'm a platinum. Jason, I think, is gold, and you guys are probably bronze and silver. I can't remember, but I think, Ronnie, I'm sure you picked up a lot of manager ratings the last 2 weeks.
I think I was a bronze, and now I think I'm up to silver.
I would not be surprised, not even slightly, the way you knocked off Jason and I so convincingly. So, yeah, like I said, man, great job, and I cannot wait for the offseason discussions on, are we going to add keepers? Are we going to tweak anything? Adding some teams. It's going to be fun next year, and I think we should stick with the offline. That was a lot of fun to do that in this kind of informal setting.
All I know is next year, after I lose all season, I got the number 1 pick.
Or next, yeah. So not.
Or we'll add expansion teams and you'll get gypped out of it like I did.
Yeah.
Well, and we're going to have to see, is it going to be an all 6 teams in and the top 2 get buys, or is it just going to be 4 in and no buys? We got a lot to talk about as we expand this thing over the off season. So we'll have more fun with it next year, I'm sure. And maybe we'll even do an in-person draft instead, make it like a whole draft party. Everybody brings some food and we have a good time with it. So
that would be cool.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. All right, so moving along, the Pirates on Saturday, they pulled off the largest rally in franchise history. 2023, it's been a surprising year for the Reds, although not by my prognostication. My prognostication, that was much more rosy than everybody else's was, I should note. The Reds lost 100 games last year, but I think after this rally the Pirates pulled on Saturday night, I think they stuck a dagger right into the backs of oh shoot, Joe, I scrolled down way too far. Joe, let me do the Pirates and then we'll hop back up and take care of the Cubs. I'm so sorry. Listeners, I accidentally scrolled too far down my topic sheet and skipped an entire page. So, Joe, sorry about that, dude. Thanks for letting me know in the private chat. We'll finish up the Pirates quick, and then we'll roll into the Cubs. So, anyway, the Pirates, they just jammed a dagger right into the back of the Reds Saturday night. They overcame a 9-run deficit for the first time since the franchise started to play in 1882, and they won that game 13-12. Alfonso Rivas tied a career high with 5 RBIs. Coming into the game, the Pirates had been 0-819 in franchise history when trailing by 9+, which I feel like is probably not that far off true for most teams, because let's be real, a 9-run deficit is nearly impossible to lose, but it has happened. The Reds opened with a 9-run lead with 3 runs in the first, 5 in the second, 1 in the third, and then they allowed 13 unanswered runs after that. So basically, guys, this is like a freaking football game. Long run, tight window to finish. They did try to rally, but they stranded the potential tying run at third base in the 9th. Ellie De La Cruz struck out, and then whoever was batting after him just flew out, and that was that. This is the first time the Reds have squandered a 9-run lead since they lost 10-9 to the Brewers back on April 28th, 2004. And this was the biggest blown lead in the major leagues this season, topping Seattle's 7-0 blown lead in that 14-9 loss to the Cubbies back on April 11th. I mean, guys, the Reds are done. That's so much bad momentum, bad juju to blow a 9-run lead.
Yeah, like I said before, I really think they're just tired from trying to push themselves into the playoffs. I think they hit that wall.
And that's that's the youngest team, or one of the youngest teams. Oakland might be younger, but the youngest team in the majors right now, and certainly the youngest team of the playoff candidates. And the lack of veteran leadership from anybody other than Joey Votto, I think, really shows, and they're just burned out.
I think Joey's done after this year anyways.
Yeah, I think Joey had his last at bat in Cincinnati. He might try to come back one more year, but I don't think it's going to be with the Reds. Although to see Joey Votto anywhere but Cincinnati, that's going to be really, really weird. Joe, what do you think? Joey Votto done?
Probably. I don't think he'll want to play anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he does, then that's fine. I've always enjoyed watching him play, so I'm not, upset about.
He's a great interview. He's a great personality. He knows the game inside and out, and he's got the best eye for the strike zone for anybody since Ted Williams, honestly.
And he's great with the fans too.
Yeah,
that's just key right there.
Yeah, I remember
on and off the diamond. It's really fun to listen to him talk about the game and interact with fans and everything. It's great.
Yeah, I remember the one time, he swung, lost the bat, it went in the stands, hit a fan. He made sure, he got his new bat, continued, but he made sure that he had a chance to get up there in between innings, make sure the fan was okay, and then also later sent up a signed bat, signed ball, the whole 9 yards. Just, yeah, Joe, you nailed it. Class act. Great guy.
I do remember the one time, I don't know if it was this year or last year, where this young girl was in the stands and Votto was her favorite player. Like, she just got to her seat and Votto got tossed. So
that was this year.
Yeah, it was this year. I remember that.
And he made it up to her. I mean, like you said, he really goes above and beyond for the fan base.
Yeah, he really does. Great guy. Boy, I'd love to sit down and have a beer with him and just pick his brain about everything he's seen, because I'm sure the stories he has are something else. All right, Joe. So let's backtrack, because I'm an idiot, and hit the Cubs. How about them Cubbies?
Yeah, interesting week. Let's put it that way. They lost 2 out of 3 to Pittsburgh to start the week. They won game 1 14-1, and then lost 7-13 and 6-8 respectively the next 2 nights. Alexander Canario made his first start on Monday last week, or Tuesday, Tuesday I guess it was, and got his first hit, a double, and his first homer, which was a grand slam, and then proceeded not to start the rest of the week because, of course, he did.
Dave
know,
Ross is an idiot.
excellent job for him coming up and sort of riding the wave of not making a lot of appearances and then making the best of his moments. The bullpen had 4 no-hit innings in that game, which was excellent. And then Steele got knocked around the next night, only went 3+ innings, 8 hits, 6 runs. This was the pitcher's duel we expected for a couple of innings, and then it just went off the rails from there. This likely knocked Steele out of any Cy Young consideration at this point. The last 2 starts have been pretty bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does have a start tomorrow and one more against Milwaukee. So, I mean, if they're perfect starts and they make the playoffs, maybe. But, 2 weeks were really – the last 2 starts were really rough for him. Mitch Keller in this game got his 200th strikeout of the season. He is only the 6th Pirate pitcher to do so. Bob Veal was the first one, multiple years in the 60s. Oliver Perez in 2004, Burnett in 2013, and Liriano and Garrett Cole in 2015. That.
You know, that's wild. I always forget both A.J. Burnett and Garrett Cole used to play on the Pirates. I always forget about that. Yeah. And I wish I wouldn't when I'm doing Immaculate Grid.
Yeah. Yeah, so hat tip to Mitch Keller, really having a great season as a pitcher. Was really impressed with what he's been able to do this year. Game 3, Andahar for the Pirates went 3 for 4 with a double, 3 RBIs, and a stolen base. So he had himself a day. That was the story of the third game. The Cubs pitching just didn't perform well outside of Monday's game, the first game of the series. So, you know, the pitching was the story there. And then the Cubs play the Rockies to end the week. They sweep the Rockies 6-0, 6-3, and 4-3. Jameson Taillon, I rag on him when he's terrible, and he was excellent on Friday. So I need to give him some credit here. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Absolutely excellent. Assad has really proven his value the last couple of weeks, and he got another great 4 innings in relief on Saturday, taking over from Marcus Stroman to finish, who is back and will be starting probably another time this week yet. And the biggest thing I want to focus on about the Cubs in September and this push that they've tried to do is the resurgence of Seiya Suzuki. In June, before he was sat down, hit 177, 247, 228. That was his slash line in June. 14 hits, 4 doubles, 7 RBIs, 7 walks, 6 runs, and 22 strikeouts throughout the entire month of June. Through September to this point, 17 runs, 33 hits, 8 doubles, 1 triple, 7 homers, 22 RBIs. Slash line of 375, 434, 727. So really the resurgence of the Cubs in September is due to Seiya's September success.
Yeah, Seiya's definitely turned it around. It's been pretty sweet to watch. I know you've got your favorite obvious Seiya shirt, so it's got to be nice to see him do a little better. I do remember June was not good. You were say mildly frustrated would be a little bit of an understatement.
Yeah, I think that was a case of Ross making a good decision at that point of the year where he basically said, "You're just gonna sit for a week, just watch the game," and then he's been great ever since.
You just need a restart sometimes, you know. All right, so let's move it along then. To steal a common phrase that Obvious Shirts likes to use, Roy Lewis is really good at hitting grand slams. Sorry, Joe, if you're listening. So last Friday, Roy Lewis hits his 5th career grand slam, 4th of the season, which that's just insane.
Shit.
It gets better, dude. He only has 16 career grand slam or 16 career home runs. 5 out of 16 are grand slams. Just wild. He's the first player to hit 5 grand slams within his first 16 career home runs. I was not surprised to see that stat. He's also the first player to hit 4 grand slams in a span of 18 games or fewer. That's pure the guys at Elias Sports Bureau. The previous shortest span for a player to hit 4 grand slams was Don Mattingly back in 1987, but I couldn't find how many games that span was. But that was the last time it had been done in a relatively short period of time. So Royce Lewis over the last 18 games has been an absolute fantasy stud. So I really wish I would have picked him up. Maybe I would have had a better chance last week, although honestly, probably not. And honestly, had I picked him up, he probably would have gone ice cold anyway. So maybe it's better for him that I did not. Well, anyway. So moving on and hopping back down ahead to where we actually should be in the sheet, because I'm now back at the right spot again. Moving into the Braves and Phillies week. First with the Braves, Atlanta started to rest more players, so predictably it was a bit of a slower week. They dropped 2 or 3 of the Phillies, but then turned around, took 3 out of 4 with the Nationals. The one loss coming on a doubleheader day, so I'm always happy to split a doubleheader. No problem with that whatsoever. Phillies series was a 7-1 loss, 9-3 win, and a 6-5 loss in 10. National series is a 10-3 win, 9-6 win, 3-2 loss, and an 8-5 win. Just a couple notes from last week that I had. Spencer Strider leads the majors with 19 wins now and 274 Ks, which is also 2 shy of John Smoltz' 1996 single-season modern franchise record, which in Strider's next start he will break. The question is not if, but when. The Braves have 100 wins in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 2002-2003. I hadn't realized it had been that long. Good God. Acuna joined the 40-40 club along with the 40-60 club that he has founded, and he has hit safely in 14 of his last 15 with 8 homers, 15 RBIs. He's also scored 143 runs, which are the most since A-Rod had 143 back in 2007 when he won his MVP. Ozzie Albies hit the 100 RBI benchmark. Olsen is up to 53 home runs, which leads the majors. The pitching staff, of course, can't stay healthy because why the hell would they? Max Fried is on the IL. He just has a blister on his finger. He is expected to be back for the NLDS, either game 1 or game 2. It's just the IL is literally just to pull another pitcher up without needing to drop somebody off the 40-man. Or off the 28-man active right now. Morton is slightly more serious. He's got right index finger inflammation. He is going to miss the NLDS, but should be available for the NLCS if the Braves should advance that far. But in positive news, Jesse Chavez is back. Uncle Jesse is back in the bullpen and looked great in his first outing out. 2 1/3 innings and only 25 pitches. So it looks like he has picked it up right back where he left off. I'm quite happy to say, because good God, we need all the reliable arms we can get for the bullpen, because the pitching has been a little shaky in September, but I'm just going to chalk it up to a slower month as they've kind of coasted to the end, and that they will pick it up and be fine in the playoffs, hopefully. Ron, do you have any notes that you have from the Phillies last week?
I was not prepared.
All right,
I'm not
I'll
gonna
pull up
lie.
No, don't worry about it. I'll pull up Jason's stuff because he sent me stuff as well. So for the Phillies, he said, what a huge week. Came in ice cold and close to the D-backs, went 6-1, and now have all but guaranteed the top wild card spot. Also swept the Mets, so that's amazing. And on a happy note, too, the Phillies eliminated the Mets officially. So that felt very poetic after the absolute beatdown the Mets put on the Phillies last year.
And given the fact that they had to deal with that rainstorm that came through, and they still played the games and still spanked the shit out of the Mets pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and Jason was at the game Saturday. He finally got to see Wheeler pitch. if he is able to get home in time to join us before we go off air, I'll let him regale his thoughts from the night. And like I said, he'll be there tomorrow as well. So knock on wood, Jason will get to see the Phillies clinch the top wild card spot on home turf tomorrow. That'd be pretty sweet to watch the celebration. All right, and then moving it along, we've got the Brewers. Right-handed pitcher J.C. Mejia was suspended 162 games for failing a second test for a performance-enhancing drug. He tested positive for stanozolol. Stanozolol is a synthetic steroid derived from testosterone taken orally or via injection, although injection is mostly for veterinary use. For human use, it's usually oral. Stanozolol was approved by the U.S. FDA for human use. It's no longer marketed in the U.S., although it is used in veterinary medicine, although it's very restricted, especially in things like horse racing. It's for humans, it's by and large been mostly discontinued. It's really only available in a few countries, and those few countries are mostly countries that are post-Soviet. Stanozolol has been banned from use in sports competitions under the IAAF, which is the International Association of Athletics Federations, the WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, and the USADA, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. In addition to being an anabolic steroid, it's also known to have a diuretic effect, which we've seen a couple positive tests over the years that have actually been for a common diuretic called furosemide that's used to treat both edema and blood pressure. And the reason you cannot take that is because it masks steroid use. So understandable that an anabolic steroid plus a diuretic would be a bad combination. It is detectable in urine for up to 10 days after a single 5 to 10 milligram oral dose. And here's the thing, though. It's really not commonly used anymore because it's extremely toxic to the liver, even from short-term use. And that's especially true in animals. I was reading like cats absolutely cannot take it. Dogs can have extremely limited amounts of it because of the liver toxicity. So surprisingly, he's the first MLB player to be suspended under the Major League Drug Agreement since Fernando Tatis Jr. last year. I was surprised to see that. He was previously suspended 80 games last year, May 17th, for the exact same substance. So clearly he has not yet learned his lesson if he got busted again in a relatively short period of time. Matt Arnold, the Brewers president of baseball operations, said, quote, "The Milwaukee Brewers fully support MLB's joint drug prevention and treatment program and share in the goal of eliminating performance-enhancing substances from our game." And clearly they're not working great because in 9 appearances, he went 1-0 with a 5.56 ERA, 13 strikeouts, 3 walks, and 11 in the third innings. He is from the Dominican Republic. This is his third season. He's got a career ERA of 8.32 in 28 games. Interestingly, last year we had 7 players suspended under MLB's program. This year, 13 were suspended in the minor league drug program. The fact that this is the first one does surprise me a little bit. Ron, I'll kick this off with you first. Do you think it's that more guys are truly not doping, or have they gotten better at doping and dodging the system?
I think they got better at dodging the system, honestly. It's just,
what do you think? Go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
I just think, there's probably some players where they're just natural, and then you got to have that handful of players where they're just finding ways around the system.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, what do you think?
Probably the same as Ron, that there's people who are skirting the rules and they're just not getting caught. And I don't know. It happens to somebody on the Brewers. I'm not too disappointed.
Not that he was doing much, but yeah.
No, but I don't understand. I could see it if he got caught with a different substance this time, but if you get caught for the same substance twice, then you're either, playing Russian roulette and hoping to get lucky, or you're an idiot.
Yeah,
I'm thinking more the latter. If you're going to use, you're going to be under scrutiny. They're going to look for it, and they found you with the same thing again.
Yeah, that's the thing that really struck me. Like, why would you use the same damn substance again that you got busted with last year? Because again, it was just last year. He's probably barely been off suspension because
Well,
the first one is an 80-game suspension.
it's kind of like guys using sticky stuff. It You got busted for it once. Why would you go right back to using it again?
Right, because when you get busted once, they are going to check you a lot more closely. As I should point out to a certain Yankees pitcher.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, I do think that with the sticky stuff, they've got to come up with some sort of agreement in the offseason over what's acceptable because the amount of stuff that we saw, pitches that we saw flying at people,
Mm-hmm.
because they lose grip of it, that just can't happen.
Especially early in the season and late in the season when it gets cold and there
Yeah.
is no moisture to help you grip that ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this 2 off seasons ago that
Yeah.
one thing we really wish they would have done was get some front office people together, get some former pitchers, get some current pitchers together, and come up with a solution that is acceptable to have enough stickiness, but not too much that it drastically increases spin rates. Because I'm sure if you would pull most hitters, they would prefer the pitchers be able to put a ridiculous amount of spin if it meant that they could control it better and not hit them in the head.
Yeah, I think most people would agree that that's a way to make the game safer. Again, if they can, control it without adding too much, ridiculous spin to it, there's got to be a middle ground somewhere with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you guys. I do not for a second think that baseball is truly clean. I know there are substances that are not detectable by current testing, and I am not naive enough to think that there are not baseball players out there that would use them. I sincerely hope they're not the Braves, but I wouldn't be shocked if it comes out down the road like the original Balco report that wait, this guy used steroids. There was I remember that getting that episode of the Sporting News after the report came out and being like, wait, they used steroids? Good God, how bad were they without it then? Because there were a lot of guys that were on that report, and and then there were some that were pretty obvious. Barry Bonds was, I think, pretty obvious. Aroyd was pretty obvious. Ken Caminiti was extremely obvious. And I've been reading. The book Playing Through Pain, which kind of documents Ken's life and all the way up to the end of it documents all of his substance abuse issues as well as his anabolic steroid use. And, a lot of the people that the author interviewed, especially like team physicians, they knew what was going on. They could tell, even if he wouldn't admit to using the steroids, they could tell who on the team was using and who was not. There are a lot of ways that they could do that. One thing I don't remember if baseball does like the Olympics does, where it's kind of like a biologic passport they create with using all of your results over time to track different levels or not. But if they do, and the fact that Mejia was dumb enough to do the same damn drug again, I mean, I would not be shocked if Milwaukee releases him and says, yeah, you're not coming back here if you get busted for the same substance twice in a row like this.
I don't think anybody else would pick him up either.
Well, and it's not like
Maybe.
I'm sure as injuries hit, I'm sure there's a team that might get desperate enough, but realistically, I don't think it's very likely. Alrighty. Joe, do you have anything for Bring Out the Good this week?
I just wanted to, with a lot of teams' final series at home this past weekend and this week, obviously, there'll be some, obviously. You see a lot of the things that these teams do for their unsung heroes at the end of the year, which I think is really neat. The Cubs have their their grounds crew folks do the 7th inning stretch. Conduct that and then run the bases after the game. The Cub players come right back out of the dugout after the game is over, to hat tip the fans and all of that. It really is neat to see how that all plays out. And Votto's the ovation Votto got, with this weekend. It's just really nice to see what some of these different teams are doing to recognize the support staff for their organization.
Absolutely. I remember being at the last Phillies home game last year with Matt and watching them honor the staff in both the front office and the stadium staff who had been there, 10 plus years, and just awesome to see them recognize all of those people. The ceremony took quite a while, and you know what? That is something I was happy to sit through and watch because those are the people that really deserve the props for keeping that game day experience so smooth and such a great time. All right, so down on the farm is going to be changing slightly now. The MILB is now in playoffs, including the independent leagues. So we will not have the usual down on the farm players, but we will have some playoff updates as those series go through. Just looking locally tonight, we'll look at our local Lancaster Barnstormers. They start the championship series tomorrow night. They face the Gastonia Honey Hunters, who beat the High Point Rockers in the deciding Game 5 today. That'll be best of 5 championship series. Games 1 and 2 are here in Lancaster. 3, 4, and 5 will be down in Gastonia. To get to the finals, the Barnstormers swept the Long Island Ducks to win the North Division title. They are trying to get their 4th Atlantic League championship, and they are trying to go back-to-back as well. And this is Gastonia's first ever championship series appearance as well. So that'll be exciting. Hopefully the Barnstormers can take the 2 here in Lancaster, so they only need to win 1 down in Gastonia. All righty. And Joe, before we move on, do you have a read the room you wanted to hit quick? I know it was something we had talked about in the chat earlier in the week.
Yeah, I don't quite understand how this happened. Obviously, being the star that he is, him having any sort of personal life issues would be well known and well documented. I believe it was the A's. The Tigers were in town against the A's, and on the Miggy farewell tour, and the A's gave someone who was a recovering alcoholic in Miggy Cabrera a bottle of wine as a parting gift. I don't know how you make an error like that. I know the A's organization is loaded with errors in judgment, but this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And it was like an 80-year-old bottle of wine or something nuts like that. Like, it wasn't just some cheapo bottle they pulled off the shelf. This was a really, really pricey bottle of wine.
No, it was an $80 bottle of wine.
Oh, $80 bottle. Okay.
Yeah, it was from like 2018, I think, if I read it correctly, or something stupid.
Oh, kind of 2018 wine's worth $80. Anyway.
I just don't understand how you can. First off, I think it was a cheap gift anyway. But to do that for somebody who's recovering is every day is a battle, and that's really just a major unforced error by them. If you're gonna give someone a parting gift, give them a bullpen phone, give them a rocking chair made out of bats, whatever.
Part of the scoreboard.
But this is just ridiculously stupid.
Yeah. Like, you can't tell me there was no memorable moment for that Miggy ever had beating down Oakland, because I'm sure there was. Or, I know Miggy wasn't really too much of a hothead. He didn't David Ortiz a bullpen phone or anything like that. But even a freaking signed picture of the A's where all the freaking players signed it and said, "Good luck in retirement, Miggy." That would have been a better gift and a more thoughtful gift than a bottle of wine. Just, yeah. I got nothing, man. That was, probably of the many unforced errors the Oakland Athletics have had this year. That's a pretty bad one. Might not be quite as bad as basically dumping the franchise off in Vegas and telling the Oakland fans, "Screw you! It's all your fault," even though it was most likely the owner's fault. Yeah, but yeah. Anyway. All right, so let's move it along to the hot list. For me, my hot hitter this week is Esteury Ruiz of the Oakland Athletics, ironically enough. Slash line of 438, 471, .688, 16 at bats, 7 hits, a double, a home run, 2 runs, 4 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. So pretty good week for Mr. Ruiz. Jason's hot hitter, JD Martinez, 11 for 24, 5 homers, 3 doubles, 12 RBIs, a 1.708 OPS. That's insane. Joe, do you have a regular hot hitter for the week?
No, I don't.
Okay. Ron, did you happen to look up guys for a hot hitter or no?
No, I would put Nick Castellanos on that list just because of how hot he's been.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, especially looking at how he boosted your fantasy team, which I don't feel like going back into that again. So yeah, we'll just put down Castellanos for that, and we'll move on from there. Joe, who is your Moneyball hitter of the week?
Heard him and saw him in action on the stat sheet this week. Jared Triolo of the Pittsburgh Pirates. This week, 579, 680, 1,000. An OPS is 1680. 7 runs on 11 hits, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 6 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Really saw the ball well and really contributed this week in a big way.
Well, that's just not bad at all. All right, my hot pitcher for the week. I'm going to go with Jordan Montgomery of the Rangers, 1-0 over 2 starts, 14 innings, 14 strikeouts, 10 hits, an earned run, 2 walks, .64 ERA, a .86 WHIP. And Jason's hot pitcher of the week was Garrett Cole, basically locking up the AL Cy Young, which after 3 years, he's finally going to get that prediction right. 1-0, 8 innings, 2 hits, an earned run, 9 strikeouts. Again, Garrett Cole was one of the few pitchers I had that did something right this week. Thank you, Garrett. Wish I could have gotten 2 starts instead of 1 this week. Not better. Not better. Joe, any hot pitcher?
I don't think I do. Let me look real quick. More so of a homer pick, really.
Go for it.
Last week, Assad had 2 appearances. One of them was a start, and one was in relief. 9 innings, 7 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 14 strikeouts. Really proving his value and being a valuable contribution piece.
Okay. All right, and then Joe, who is the adulting reliever of the week?
The adulting reliever is James MacArthur from the Kansas City Royals. 4 appearances this week, 3 for 3 in save opportunities, 4 2/3 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts. Total pitches combined in the appearances was 67.
Wow. That's a heavy workload.
Yeah, it's 19, 17, 16, and 12.
Oof.
Wow.
To pitch that much and be that effective, it was just excellent.
Although, to be fair, the job of Royals closer is not typically a very strenuous job most of the time.
Because they don't work a lot.
But that said, it's impressive nevertheless. All right, looking at hot teams, for me, it was the Rangers. They're on that 5-game winning streak that has propelled themselves to the top of the AL West right now. Joe, who's your hot team this week?
My hot team is the Kansas City Royals. They've gone 9-1 in their last 10, 6 in a row. They took 5 of 6 from Houston, including a sweep over the weekend, and swept Cleveland last week.
That's insane.
Yeah, they are on a roll, and I like the fact that they're playing spoiler to the Astros.
Yeah, I will never complain about that. Never. Jason's hot team obviously was the Phillies. We did touch on that earlier. Ron, do you have another hot team besides the Phillies? Or are you happy to hop on the Phillies bandwagon for
I
that?
was going to say the Phillies.
Okay. All right. That's very fair. The Phillies have been on fire lately. I can't argue with that. All right, guys, looking at the week coming up, Atlanta is home to end the year, 3 versus the Cubs, 3 versus the Nats, Elder versus Steele, and then Atlanta has not announced starters past Elder. The Cubs will be throwing Tyone and Stroman, and then 3 versus the Nats. The only game that Atlanta has announced a starter in that series is the middle game will be Strider versus Corbin. The Nats are also going to throw Irvin and Williams as well. The Cubbies, 3 at the Brewers, Hendricks versus Woodruff, Wicks versus Peralta, Steele versus Hauser. Phillies, 3 versus the Pirates, Nola versus Keller, Suarez versus Oviedo, Wheeler versus Ortiz. 3 at the Mets, Walker versus McGill, Sanchez versus Budo, Nola versus Lucchesi. O's have 2 versus the Nats, Bradish versus TBD, Rodriguez versus Gray, and then 4 versus the Red Sox to close it out. Kremer versus Soleil, Means versus Pavetta, Gibson versus Crawford, Bradish versus Houck. So for the Nats, for the O's, that's a great way to end the year to stay ahead of Tampa Bay and perhaps even catch Atlanta for the top overall record. Although I think that's going to be a little bit tough because I believe they are 3 behind Atlanta right now in the standings overall. Give me a sec. I'll look that up. But Joe, what are you thinking about Braves Cubs this week? Because Atlanta's going to start resting guys soon with the injuries to the pitching staff. They're using a lot of guys, a lot of the minor league guys that they've been cycling up and down all year. So you're not really using a ton of your regular starters. You're getting guys rested for the playoffs. I got to be honest, I don't know how to do any predictions for this week, and it's really tough to say because the offense, the bats are going to be there because even when Atlanta rests some of their starters, their bench guys are more than capable for a game or two of producing. We've seen it throughout the year. Kevin Pillar's got 8 home runs off the bench, and I think he's only appeared to like 40, 50 some games. So, Forrest Wall hit his first home run over the weekend against the Nationals. A speedster guy, not normally known for power. So, the bench can definitely step up, for a game or two if needed. Although I have a feeling you'll see that more perhaps against the Nationals than the Cubs, since that's the last series. What are you thinking though, man?
Look, I think this will be. I hope it's a good series, one way or the other. Obviously, I'm hoping that the Cubs can take care of what they need to take care of. But you're going up against the hottest team in the National League. I mean, that's not scared them before, but I feel good about one pitcher in that series. Really, the fact that we're not going up against Strider or Fried or Morton gives me a little bit of comfort, but your guys have been doing well all year anyway, the ones that they've been cycling through.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to the Steele Elder matchup tomorrow and seeing how that progresses. Can Steele kind of get on a good swing here toward the end of the year and prep for a potential playoff run? He's had a bit of a rough start the last week or so. Can he rebound from that? That's what I'm interested in seeing, and can the offense continue to hit? And with the end of the week, I don't care if the division is wrapped up. There's nothing Milwaukee would love to do more than to keep the Cubs out of the playoffs. So I don't anticipate them resting anybody, regardless of where they stand on it.
Yeah, so maybe Sunday. That would be the only day I see them resting anybody.
Yeah, I'm not. I will say this: I am somewhat optimistic, but I'm not ready to jump on board the wagon again. You don't control your own. You have to take care of your business, and you can't count on everybody else anymore.
Yeah, because with no tiebreakers, you guys literally need to hold serve the rest of the way out. Something I think we're going to see tomorrow. Kyle Wright is not going to be stretched out enough to start in the playoffs, but as he noted in an interview last week, he's been used out of the bullpen in the playoffs before and pretty successfully as a long reliever in the playoffs. And I think what you're going to see for the NLDS rotation is going to be Fried, Strider, 1-2, or Strider, Fried. It doesn't really matter. And then game 3, I think they're going to go to Bryce Elder. And then my guess, and again, this is just a guess, because it's Bryce Elder's first time in the playoffs, I think Elder's essentially going to be an opener, and then Kyle Wright's going to take the bulk of the innings in the middle, probably with Jesse Chavez as well. So, and especially because the way the NLDS is laid out this year, it's game 1, day off, game 2, I believe, then travel day for 3, 4, 5. I got to look that up again, but I know there's an extra day off in the beginning of the series. So Strider and Fried will be able to pitch on full rest in 1, 2, and 4, 5 if necessary. So that would be the way that's laid out is great for Atlanta. They can use this series as how well is this Elder Wright combination going to work? Is this something we can look at for the playoffs? Because I think they're going to have to for the NLDS with no Charlie Morton. So it's going to be it'll be a fun ride to the end. I did look it up. Atlanta's 3 games ahead of Baltimore right now for the best record in baseball, and it's 6 games left for each of them. So Atlanta could have the top overall record wrapped up fairly quickly. Ron, looking at the Phillies this week, 3 versus the Pirates, they should be able to handle the Pirates. Although that said, the Pirates have a little bit of momentum going right now, especially after that huge come from behind win against the Reds. They did lose yesterday, but they're 6-4 in the last 10. So, it feels a little bit like a trap series, but that said, they only need to win 1 game, and then they've got the top wild card locked up, and then they can basically not really give 2 flying what's the rest of the way for the last couple games, which is frankly what I fully expect them to do. I'm expecting that once it's wrapped up, Harper's going to be on the bench and not seen again until the playoffs, other than maybe a couple pinch hits here and there. A couple of the other high leverage guys that have had a lot of wear this year, they'll probably do the same thing, and as they should.
Give Nick a day off or something.
Yeah. Ron, I hate to say it, I think you're going to see a lot of Kristen Pache this week.
You know what? That's all right. Like, as much as I hate him, he has speed for the outfield at least.
He does.
Anybody's better than Schwarber, so that's all right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a World War II amputee that's been dead for 5 years is probably a better option in the outfield than Kyle Schwarber.
I gotta love it.
And is this the second year in a row, at least the Phillies aren't ending the year at home?
Yeah, it is.
Good grief. They don't start the year at home, they don't end the year at home, and they don't get their damn home game on July 4th. That's you should get one or the other, definitely. If you don't have your first series at home, your last series should be at home. It's just how it should be. And as I said last year, this year, and probably every other year we do the damn podcast, the Phillies should absolutely 100% be at home every year for July 4th. If we can say that the Reds are always home for the first series of the year because they're baseball's first team, then the Phillies should be able to be home for July 4th every year. But what do I know? And then looking at the Orioles, I mean, boy, the Nationals and the Red Sox, like that really is a dream coast way to end the year. I fully expect them to be able to put the final beat down on the Tampa Bay chances of catching them. Like I said, 2.5 games back. What did I say the magic number was for that? Something like 5, I think. So I fully expect Baltimore to take advantage of that and put an end to that division race probably by the middle to the or I think they'll have it done before the weekend, probably by Friday at the latest. So, Yeah, guys, we are in the final home stretch, and it's going to be an exciting race to the finish. I'm not going to lie, I am probably going to spend more time watching the AL West games this week than I am watching the Braves, just because that is such an exciting race right now. One of definitely one of the best we have seen. And I was definitely not expecting that by any small stretch of the imagination. I mean, you've got Houston and Seattle starting tonight, so that's Seattle already has that tiebreaker, but still, they need to make up some ground, so that'll be the opportunity there. And then Texas is at the Angels, so basically, I think Texas is probably going to be able to take the division after this. I fully expect them to sweep the Angels, given how bad they've been, and with Rondon being done, Trout's done for the year, Ohtani's done for the year. I mean, there's really nobody left out there, and their pitching is atrocious. So guys, my guess is that the Rangers are probably going to have the division locked up, probably again, maybe in this first series, but I think they'll have the division locked up before the weekend is over.
I would think so, yeah.
All right, guys. So that's all we have for this week. Looks like Jason didn't make it on, but that's okay. Karen, congratulations on the first day. Jason, take it easy. We will see you back next week for the regular season wrap and the playoff preview. So, guys, audio recordings are available on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else the podcasts are available. You can see us live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. The Twitter page at DDAB_podcast. All three of us are on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRaker300. Joe is at JoltonJoe35. I know, Ron, you still have your at Dipner Ron when you hop on there just to mess with people and troll them.
Yep.
We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the wonderful Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. Shout out to Johnny for getting me in tonight to get the hair and beard all cleaned up for the event this weekend at work. I really appreciate it, man. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good one. We will see you next week.